Hey guys, Savage Recovery back for another video. How are my savages doing? If you guys aren't subscribed, do me a favor. If you want to support the channel, subscribe, hit the bell, get all my notifications. Hit a like, comment, share, help me out with the algorithm. If you guys aren't following me on Instagram, you can find me at savage_red_studios, where you can see all of my photography. And also I have a Facebook page and a Twitter. And you guys can check me out on Patreon. You guys can also check me out on the Cash App. Let's get into it. Well, guys, I just happened to be right about the George Floyd case back when I went on to Tommy's show, and he had me on and we talked about what I thought about the case. I gave my perspective as of watching the footage, the police footage, and from my understanding of drugs and how they're broken down in your body and how your body reacts to them. From being a drug addict, I am now 5 years recovered, but I used to do heroin, fentanyl, meth, crack. I used to do all those drugs, but the drug I loved the most was heroin. That was my drug of choice. So, Minnesota officer's attorney alleges George Floyd's overdose on fentanyl, says charges should be dropped. Alright, so this was just filed a few days ago. And a new filing in the case against a now fired Minneapolis police officer involved in the killing of George Floyd. Now, when you say killing of, that automatically is a bias. The officer's attorney alleges that Floyd overdosed on fentanyl while resisting arrest, and doing so contributed to his own death, arguing that charges against the officer should be dropped. Thomas Lane is charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder and aiding and abetting second-degree manslaughter in connection with Floyd's Memorial Day death. In July, his attorney Earl Gray filed a motion to dismiss the charges, which Lane argued there is not enough evidence to establish probable cause that the former rookie officer committed a crime. Which, I don't know how you can be charged with second-degree manslaughter and aiding and abetting second-degree murder. Because if you were aiding and abetting in a murder, how could you then get manslaughter? Because in order for you to have a murder case, you would have to have some sort of malicious intent. And manslaughter, I believe second-degree manslaughter would be like you didn't have intent, but you were neglectful. I'm not exactly sure about the way that would work out, but I don't see how you could be charged with both. I don't know how you could be charged with the murder case or even a murder case and a manslaughter case could be from the same incident. That's weird to me. But in Monday's filing, Gray doubled down the idea that Floyd swallowed drugs while the officers were attempting to take him into custody, pointing to the disappearance of white spot on Floyd's tongue in the body camera video. He argues it looks like 2 milligrams of fentanyl, a lethal dose. All he had to do is sit in the police car like every other defendant who is initially arrested. While attempting to avoid his arrest all by himself, Mr. Floyd overdosed on fentanyl. The court documents read, given his intoxication level, breathing would have been difficult at best. Mr. Floyd's initial failure to obey commands complied with his overdose, contributing to his own death. Now, the coroner report autopsy says that the toxicology tested found fentanyl and evidence of recent methamphetamine use in Floyd's system, but the report ultimately ruled the death of Floyd a homicide. The updated version of the medical examiner's report states that on the 25th, Floyd experienced cardiopulmonary arrest, which being restrained by the law enforcement officers. A separate autopsy ordered by Floyd's family, released by the attorney, determined that asphyxiation from sustained pressure was the cause of death. So, at the end of the day, there was a high level of drugs in his system. He resisted arrest, and he was foaming at the mouth in the video, and the police acknowledged it. And before he was able to talk, well, before he was on the floor, he was saying he couldn't breathe. So I honestly feel that I was, like it says here, even though it was ruled it was still ruled a murder, which that's just some political bullshit. But the updated version of the medical examiner's report states that on May 25th, Floyd experienced a heart attack while being restrained by law enforcement officers, which would be an overdose. So he overdosed, like I had stated before. And we have had almost 90 days of protesting and rioting because of this malarkey. The coroner, and if you go into the coroner report, it said that if this man was found at his house by himself with no other circumstances, the coroner would have ruled it an overdose. So regardless of how the video looks, regardless of how people feel about it, the fact of it is he did have a heart condition. He was on a deadly drug. And on top of these two things, he said he could not breathe before the police even had their hands on him. I stated that because of all of this, with the foaming of the mouth, that he probably was going in to an overdose. And he finally died while he was being restrained. And he more than likely was going to die anyways, even if he was just sitting in the car. So for anyone that saw my videos and believed that I was full of shit, there's now a report that states what I was saying back then. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. If you guys want to check me out on Patreon to get all my spicier content, I'm not going to be able to post the content I'd like to post on YouTube because recently I have been getting flagged all the time. I just got flagged 2 times within 4 or 5 days. So I am going to have to move the spicy content with the graphic images and videos over to Patreon because I'm able to post more freely there. As always, guys, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Stay savage.